I think that at times we all feel like life is unfair. And we look at what other people have and we feel a little bit jealous. We might even feel a little bit envious, wishing that they didn't have all the things that they had, which is obviously not the best attitude. But I think there's sometimes there's moments in life that give us a little bit more perspective. I remember when I was working in El Salvador, we had an apostolate called Cristo de la Calle, Christ in the Streets. And we would go out and give hot tamales and coffee to people. It was normally Friday night. And these were people who were destitute, living in the streets and really didn't have anything else. And, so many memories, so many stories that I could tell. But there's one moment in particular that really always kind of stays with me. And whenever I'm feeling like complaining, it kind of hits me right in the face. And so one day we were out there and we met this gentleman who was sick. He was sick with chikungunya, which is kind of one of these tropical diseases. You get it from a mosquito. Not a lot of fun, to put it mildly. And nevertheless, he was planning to get up the next morning at 4 in the morning. This was about 8 p.m. Friday night. He was going to get up at 4 in the morning, walk across town in order to get whatever work he was able to find during the day. And most people when they're sick, well, they're lying in bed, right? He didn't have a bed. He was there sleeping, on the street, literally on the street, and suffering the sick, and yet he was going to do all this. And what was even more amazing is that he was cheerful about it. There was no complaint. There was no woe is me. And so, it's so easy for us to fall into a state of entitlement. I deserve all of these things. But that's where it's always so powerful for me to meet others that are truly suffering in order to get better perspective on life. We all have different ways of dealing with suffering. Some people resign themselves to it. Other people are always, fighting, struggling, kind of rejecting it. Other people go into denial. There's so many different ways that we might respond. But I think one of the things we really have to kind of root out, get rid of from ourselves is a sense of entitlement. Entitlement makes us think we deserve special treatment. Then when life doesn't meet our expectations, we can quickly fall into a state of bitterness. When people feel entitled, they want to be different from others, but just as frequently, they come across as indifferent to others. And that's something that obviously we all want to avoid. And when we feel entitled, ultimately it's because we're insecure. There's something about ourselves that we don't necessarily like, that we're not totally in agreement with. And so we kind of have this feeling of, I'm not enough. And it's not fair, but we want to kind of like stuff that away or get rid of it by whatever it is that we feel that we're entitled to. So if you ever feel overwhelmed by what seems like life's unfairness, you're not alone. This is something we all go through from time to time. The sense of being cut off from God, from others, from ourselves, echoes the experience of the lepers in today's gospel. Their exclusion led to deep moral suffering beyond the physical pain caused by their horrible disease. They faced indifference, they faced disgust, and they faced rejection. And so we have to recognize our own failures and weaknesses, but bring them to the Lord and trust in Him. When Jesus healed the 10 lepers, 9 walked away and never saw Him again. There was only one who came back and said, "Thank you, Lord." What does the science say? Genetics and neuroscience have something to say about gratitude and happiness. As the happiness expert Arthur Brooks mentioned in an article, some research even suggests a genetic link to gratitude. But regardless of our wiring, studies show that we can train ourselves to be grateful, and that makes us happier. I would almost, posit that gratitude is a superpower. It wipes away resentment, it lowers our sense of entitlement, and it opens the doors to joy. Gratitude turns chaos into clarity. Whenever we react with gratitude, our perspective changes radically. It makes me think of Mother Cabrini, one of my favorite saints, American saint, born in Italy, grew up in Italy, but then she came to the United States, a U.S. immigrant, the first American citizen saint. And she lived out gratitude among tremendous rejection and hardship. Though rejected by religious orders and redirected from her dream of Asia to the streets of New York, Mother Cabrini never lost her awareness of God's providence. At the Pope's behest, she traded Asia for New York to care for Italian immigrants struggling to survive in the New World. She emphasized gratitude to her sisters, and her life gives testimony to the power of being thankful. Gratitude can transform hearts and lead to a faith-filled journey of mercy and service. Every trial and difficult circumstance led to her having more faith, not less. Her faith held her up in difficult times. And that's what we're called to as well. So when we're feeling like I'm not enough, well, we need to exercise more faith. When we're feeling like I'm not enough, we need to find the things that we're grateful for. One thing that my mom used to do that I really loved is, she would just kind of take her fingers and start counting off her blessings. And that was something that I think is so beautiful and something we can all do. And even like a really nice thing to do at night is just take your 10 fingers and find 10 things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for this friend. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for my university education. I'm grateful for this professor. I'm even grateful for this other person who's giving me a really hard time and giving me the chance to grow in patience. There's so many things that we can be grateful for, even some of the difficult things. This is a great way of wiping away entitlement. This is a great way of growing in gratitude. And this opens the door to joy, because God is the deepest, the most authentic, and the real source of your joy. God bless.